So task oriented one.
Task oriented, ma'am.
Task oriented. So if the situation is unfavorable, which type of leadership would be good?
Relationship.
Okay. When it is moderate situation?
Still relationship one.
Still relationship. Okay. So we would be looking into this. Wherein based on these three categories as in situational dimensions, he gave 8 different types of situations. So when the leader member relationship is good, task structure is high, power position is strong, then the situation is categorized as favorable situation. So if the leader member relationship is good, task structure is high, power position is weak, then also we consider it as favorable situation. Then coming to leader member relationships being good, task structure being low and power position being strong, we consider it as moderate. As in 1, 2 is considered as favorable situations, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is considered as moderately favorable or unfavorable situations. Then 7 and 8 are considered as unfavorable situations. So Fred Fiedler, what he said is that in both favorable and unfavorable situations, task-oriented leaders would be performing good. If the situation is favorable to them, they would be performing good. Even if the situation is unfavorable to them, they would be performing good. But when the situation is moderate, then relationship-oriented leaders would be performing good. So you all can see this graph, right? So when it is favorable situation, this line is relationship oriented and this dots line is task oriented leadership. So when it is favorable situation, task oriented relationship, task oriented leadership is high. At the same time, when the situation is unfavorable, task oriented leadership is high. So when the situation is moderate, in terms moderate situation, then which type of leadership is good?
Relationship oriented.
Relationship oriented leadership is good. So according to Fiedler, what he said is that either in order to get effective performance, for example, if there is unfavorable situation and you have a leader, relationship oriented leader, then either you have to change the situation or you have to change the leader. You can't use the same leader in such unfavorable situations. So if you use relationship oriented leader in unfavorable situations, if you don't change the leadership style or the situation, then what happens is that there won't be effective performance or effective outcomes. So either you have to change the leader or you have to change the situation according to Fred Fiedler. Then we would be moving to path goal theory of leadership. Okay. So this theory is given by Robert House in the year 1971. So when we are talking about path goal leadership, when we are talking path goal, so in these they are stating that the leader has to show the path to the employees or the subordinates. Whatever the goals might be, whatever the direction might be, whatever the roles they might be getting, everything should be clarified by the leader itself. What path to be followed, which direction should be taken, everything the leader should be clarifying it to the employees, right? So the leader should be directive and supportive. So according to Robert House, he gave 4 different types of leadership styles. As you can see here, leadership styles: directive leadership, support leadership, participative leadership style, and achievement oriented leadership style. So when we are talking about directive leadership style, the leader would be direct, as in he would be giving directions. He won't be supporting the employees. He won't be taking opinions from his employees. He would be only giving suggestions and he would be taking only his say. His decision would be final. So that is about directive. So talking about supportive leadership, whatever might be the task, anything, the leader would be supporting the employee. He would be empathizing the employee. Then we would be going to participative leadership. So when we are talking about participative leadership, what happens is that there is no support, but what happens, the employees takes the employees decisions. Whenever any decision making, the leader would be asking for employees say in it. He would be taking their inputs, right? After taking their inputs only, the final decision making would be done in participative type of leadership. Then we would be coming to achievement oriented leadership. In this type of leadership, what happens is that the leader would be setting goals, high standard goals, challenging goals to the employees, and also he would be giving the confidence to the employees that they would be able to reach that challenging goals. Right? That is about achievement oriented leadership. So there are 4 different types of leadership which a leader can. So what is the difference between path goal theory and contingency theory is that Fiedler believed that a leader can have only one type of leadership style, either task oriented or relationship oriented. But talking about Robert House, he told that a leader can be having all these 4 types of leadership style, but based on the situation, he would be selecting which style of leadership to be used, right? In order to decide whether the situation is good or bad, that would be dependent on 2 types of factors, which include subordinate characteristics and environmental factors, right? In order to describe a situation to be good or bad, it would be based on subordinate characteristics and environmental factors. So if the need for affiliation is more, right, as in if the employee wants to be have a good as in interpersonal, they are willing to have good interpersonal relationships and have good relationship with the other employees and as well as leaders, which type of leadership style would be good? Yes.
Supportive, ma'am.
Yes, supportive type of leadership style would be good. When if the employee has preference for structure, as in the task has to be structured, the goals have to be specific, everything should be structured in order to work, then we would be going for directive.
Directive, ma'am.
Yes, directive leadership style. Desire for control, for example, if the employee has the desire for control, he wants to be giving inputs in the decision making, he also wants to have some control over the decision making, then we would be going for any idea?
Achievement.
Yes.
Achievement.
Okay. So generally the employees wanting to have control, right? Yes.
Participative type, ma'am.
Yes. So generally we would be going for participative type because we wanted to have control over decision making, right? So in participative style, what happens is that the leader will also be taking our inputs. Only after taking our inputs, we would be the decision would be taken. So we are also having the control over the decision making. So we would be using participative style. So self-perceived level of task ability. So if the individual has the confidence that he or she would be able to do the task, his satisfaction is high, his abilities are high, then we would be going for which type of leadership?
Achievement oriented, ma'am.
Achievement oriented, because there are challenging tasks and also the individual or the employee has the ability to do that task. Then we will be going for achievement oriented. So then comes environmental factors. If the task structure is well structured, then we would be going for directive style or achievement oriented style. So if the task is not structured well enough, then we would be going either for supportive style or participative style. Same, if there is formal authority system, then either it would be directive or participative. Then primary work group. If the primary work group is supportive, then we would be going for supportive. If the primary work group is not supportive, every other individual has their own opinions, only the leader has the right to give in their inputs, then it would be directive. So based on the subordinate characteristics and environmental factors, the leader would be deciding which style of leadership to be used. So after deciding which style of leadership to be used based on the situational factors, we would be motivating the employee. We would be looking to motivate employee as in order to set goals, what are the abilities, on what basis the leader can motivate the employee, whether it is intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation, which type of motivation can be used. So if there are, we have seen, right, the leader has to set the path. So it is the responsibility of the leader in order to remove if there are any roadblocks, as in if there are any disturbances in the path of reaching the goal, it is the responsibility of the leader to remove all such type of goals. So and also depending on the situation, it is important for the leader to decide which style of leadership to be used. For example, if the task is very ambiguous, as in when there is no clarity in the task to do nothing, then and also the then which type of leadership would be good according to you? There is no clarity in what task to be done, what to be done, which path to be followed. There is no clarity in anything. Then which type of leadership you would be using? Which type of leadership would be effective when there is no clarity in a task structure and roles?
Ma'am, is it
Supportive, ma'am.
directive?
Yes. Why? Because in directive, the leader would be directing us which path to be followed. Then we would be having an idea what to do next, right? So we would be using directive leadership. Then we would be moving to situational theory of leadership. So this situational theory of leadership was given by Hashi and Blanchard. So according to them, what happens is that a leadership style has to be based on the readiness of the follower. So when we are talking about the readiness, it is the ability and the willingness of the follower to accomplish a specific task. So these readiness can be arranged in a continuum, right? Continuum wherein it has 4 different types of readiness. It includes R1, R2, R3 and R4. So when we are talking about R1, low follower readiness, as in wherein the follower is both unable and unwilling. He doesn't have the ability to do that, and also he is not having that willingness to perform that task. He lacks commitment and as well as motivation. Talking about R2, as in readiness in second level, it is low to moderate follower readiness, as in followers are unable but they are willing. They doesn't have the ability to do that, but they are willing to put some effort in order to accomplish that task. They are willing to learn that abilities. They are willing to develop that abilities which are required in order to accomplish that particular task. That is about low to moderate follower readiness, as in they are unable, they don't have that abilities, but they are willing to work hard in order to learn that abilities. That is about low to moderate, R2. Then we will be moving to R3, that is moderate to high follower readiness. This what happens is that the follower has the ability but is not willing to do that task. He is uninterested in doing that task. He has the ability to do that task. He know what is the task, right? The employers know what is the task given to them. After knowing that, what they do is that they have the abilities to perform that task, but they are uninterested in performing that task. So that is about R3. Then R4 is all about high follower readiness. As in here, the employer, the subordinate is both, he has the abilities and is also willing to do the task. Right? They have commitment and confidence. When there is commitment and confidence, it would be easier for the employee to accomplish that task. So the leadership style would be based on the readiness of the employee or the subordinate. So the readiness can be of 4 types, that is R1, R2, R3 and R4. These readiness would be based on either the individual is having the ability and the willingness to do. Clear, right? These levels of readiness.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
So based on these 4 levels of readiness, we would be having task-oriented behavior and relationship behavior. A leader can have task behavior and relationship behavior. So adding both these task behavior and relationship behavior, we would, yes? Any problem? Based on this task behavior and relationship behavior, we have 4 different types of leadership style, as in combination of both task behavior and relationship behavior. So the first style is telling style. So this is also called as directing style. So in this telling style, what happens is that the emphasis is more on task behavior, as in the leader would be directing the employees, giving the guidance. He would always be directing, but here the support given to the employee is very low. For example, this type of leadership would be good when the leader has R1 level of readiness. Telling or directing style. Telling style is also called as directing style because in this there is much emphasis on the guidance and directing, that is task behavior, and less emphasis on relationship behavior. There is no support given to the employee, but the employee is given only directions and guidance. So these type of leadership would be good for R1 type of readiness. Then we would be moving, for example, just let's take an example. For example, fresher employee. Okay, if the employee is fresher, he just needs the direction, right? He doesn't have rapport with the leader, so he or she won't be having interpersonal relationship with that fresher, but he would be guiding what to be done and what not to be done. That is about telling stage, when the fresher comes to the organization, wherein there would be no support, as in there would be no interpersonal relationship developed, but they would be giving directions and guidance what to be done. Then we would be moving to selling stage. This is also called as coaching style, selling style or coaching style. In this, what happens is that the emphasis is both on task behavior and also relationship behavior. The leader would be directing the employee, giving guidance to the employee, and also the interpersonal relationship between the employee, subordinate, and the leader is good, right? They would be interacting, they would be giving guidance, support. So for example, after the employee, it's been 6 to 1 month, the employee has joined, he is not fresher anymore, he has a good interpersonal relationship with the leader. So they would be empathizing the subordinate, they would be having trust, confidence between each other, and also the leader would be guiding and motivating the subordinate. That is about selling style, or it is also called as coaching style. Then we would be moving to participating style. So in this participating style, what happens is that it is after 2 to 3 years of an employee has joined an organization. So here the employee knows what to be done and what not to be done. So here the task behavior is low and the emphasis is more on relationship behavior. Here the interpersonal relationship is given much importance. There is no direction and guidance because it has been already 2 to 3 years. The employee knows what to be done and what not to be done. So there is no direction and guidance, but there is good interpersonal relationship. Then we would be moving to delegating style. This participating style, after this participating style, we would be moving to delegative style. Participating style is also called as supporting style. Okay, participating is also called as supporting style. And then we would be moving to delegating style, wherein both the guidance given and also the relationship behavior is low. For example, after 5 to 6 years in the office, what happens is that the leader leaves the subordinates, as in he would be giving freedom, he won't be giving any direction, guidance, and also there would be no say in decision making, right? He would be giving entire freedom to that subordinate. They have every rights and decision making. So there is very less guidance and also very less interaction between the leader and employee, because they have both the experience and also they can take decisions on their own. Delegating style has no other name. It is only called as delegating style. So this is about situational theory of leadership. You understood, right?
Yes, ma'am. Understood,
Yes,
ma'am.
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 So what is the telling style called as?
Directing style.
Directing style.
Selling style is called as?
Directing style.
Coaching style.
Yes. Participating style is called as?
Supporting style.
Supportive.
Good. Then we would be moving to contemporary theories of leadership. So in these contemporary theories of leadership, what we will be focusing is, when we are talking about contemporary theories, right? So our focus is mostly on modern issues, present types. How is the leadership in the organizations? That is our focus. So these contemporary theories of leadership can be divided into two different types. That is charismatic leadership and transformational leadership. So we will be looking into these charismatic leadership and transformational leadership in detail. Okay. So when we are talking about charismatic leadership, this word charismatic is derived from the Greek word wherein charisma is called as gifted, right? So the individual or the leader who is termed as charismatic is having some gifted abilities which make them different from the other individuals or the other leaders. For example, whenever we are talking about charismatic leadership, we would be talking about Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Abraham Lincoln. So we are taking examples of these type of leaders. So they have some gifted abilities, they have some vision which made them different from the other leaders, right? So there are many other leaders, but the leaders which whom we remember is Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, all of them, right? Because we would be looking at the key characteristics of that charismatic leader. Why are they so famous? Why are the followers would be following them without any hesitation, right? Then we would be the key characteristics include vision and articulation. So whoever may be the charismatic leader would be having a clear vision, what to be done, what is the future, what vision should be accomplished, right? So the vision of Mahatma Gandhi was to fight for freedom and also in the means of non-violence, right? There should be no violence in their path to be followed, but eventually they have to attain the freedom for India. Then talking about personal risk. So the charismatic leaders, what happens is that they would be taking any kind of risk in order to achieve their vision, in order to move towards their vision and mission. In order to achieve that, they would be taking any type of personal risk. And also they would be giving many self-sacrifices. They won't be looking at their personal life, concentrating on their personal life, but their whole focus would be on accomplishing their vision and mission. So for that, they can take any types of personal risk without even focusing on their personal life. Then the third one would be sensitivity to followers' needs. So when we are talking about sensitivity to followers' need, charismatic leaders would be empathizing with their subordinates. They would be they would be looking over what all needs their subordinates are having. They would be looking to fulfill the needs of the subordinates, and also the feelings would be mattered. What all emotions are their subordinates are going in, what all emotional states. If the subordinates have they have to give the support to their subordinates, then the charismatic leaders would always be there to support their subordinates. Then unconventional behavior. Charismatic leaders also having unconventional behavior, wherein they would be always trying to think in a different way and also counter to norms. Sometimes if the rules and regulations are against their vision, they would also just break the norms and just go out of the box and do the things in order to achieve their vision and mission. So they always try to think novelly and creativity. So all these four characteristics define a charismatic leader, that is vision and articulation, personal risk, sensitivity to followers' needs, and unconventional behavior. So do you think so if we have a charismatic leader, whether the employee or the group would be successful?
Yes, ma'am, successful.
Successful, right? So what happens is that there is also a dark phase of a charismatic leader. For example, if the
Unconventional behavior, ma'am. Because of unconventional behavior.
yeah, not only because of unconventional behavior, but also due to personal risk. So what happens is
Okay,
that
ma'am.
if the charismatic leader is not organizationally oriented, but he or she focuses on his personal goals and achievements, right? So leader is working in an organization, he or she have to focus on the organizational goals major. So the charismatic leader should not be focusing on the personal goals when they are working in an organization. Their main goal should be on the organizational goals. But if the charismatic leader is mostly oriented to the personal goals, what happens is that they would be taking very much personal risk and the subordinates would be suffering due to that, and also eventually the organization would be suffering because there won't be any organizational goals met, but only the individual goals would be met. For example, if we think of Hitler, right? Hitler is also termed as charismatic leader. He is also termed as charismatic leader. Wherein, if the leader, charismatic leader, is in terms like Hitler, it would be very disastrous, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Because if the leader is charismatic, the employee or the subordinate would be having immense respect, and the followers would be following the path of their leader, whatever path might be. The charismatic leader might take any of the path, so the same path would be followed by his followers. So if Hitler is his main focus is violence, his vision is to just eliminate all the Jews from Germany, right? So in that time, if the leader is like Hitler, charismatic leader is like Hitler, then it would be problematic. So we should be careful that the charismatic leader is not always the solution, but depending on the situation and also the goals, what type of vision they have, all that should be taken into picture. Understood, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So before discussing about what transformational leadership style is, so Max Weber during 1950s or 1980s, he gave a leadership called as transactional leadership. Okay, he gave transactional leadership was given by Max Weber, and then came transformational leadership. So we will be discussing the differences between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. So it will be easier for you to understand. So you all can see the picture here, right? Boss, leader, success. You all can see the picture, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in transactional leadership, what happens is that it is just the exchange of work and money. As in, you do the work, I'll pay you. I won't be involving in any of the decision making. I won't be setting goals for you. Even though if I set goals for you, if you won't be performing well, then there would be punishment. So there would be some exchange. If you do the work, I'll be giving you the money. There is nothing more than that. There is no interpersonal communication, nothing. You do the work, I'll be paying for you. Uh, in this picture you can see, right, only the employees would be taking the business and the boss would be just paying them or ordering them something, right? So this is about transactional leadership, as in there is only transaction between the leader and the member or the follower. So when it is transformational leadership, the leader also goes along with the followers, right? Here when we are talking about boss, we are referring to the transactional leadership, wherein only the employees would be doing whatever work they are doing and they would be getting paid for it. There is just a transaction. Whenever we are talking about transformational, here the leader also sets goals and also gives into the employee. In transactional leadership, the leader says just go, but in transformational leadership, the leader says let's go. Okay, that is about it. So there are some of the characteristics of the transformational leadership, which include idealized influence. Okay, they are having certain vision and mission wherein they would be working hard for that mission, and they have equal trust, confidence between the member and the followers. So whatever the vision and mission the leader has, that would be explained to the follower, and after explaining it to the follower with full clarification only, they would be going to the other step. And also it has inspirational motivation, wherein the communication is high. And also in this what happens is that the leader would be communicating with the follower, and they take followers inputs. They would be setting tasks based on the followers inputs, their abilities, and also the leader would be standing as an inspiration. He also does the work, he also sets the goals, he also accomplishes the goals. So whenever he accomplishes the goals, he stands as the inspiration and motivational figure for the group of followers. So if the leader has high expectations from the followers, the leader would be communicating with them what all efforts the followers can be putting into the goal in order to accomplish that, and what all the leader can do in order to as in influence their efforts, in order to make their efforts gainful, as in what all rewards can be given to that efforts. Everything would be clarified and communicated clearly. Then we would be going to intellectual stimulation, as in promotes intelligence, rationality, and careful problem solving. If there is any type of problem which arises, the leader also takes equal interest in solving that problem. The leader gives equal inputs and also takes input from all the followers, and after seeing whether it is the correct, as in rational according to that particular situation, then only they would be going to that particular solution of problem. Then individualized consideration. So in transformational leadership, what happens is that the leader gives attention to every single follower. He or she would be paying attention to every follower. He would be knowing their strengths, weaknesses, their abilities, what all they need to develop, whether they need any training or anything. The leader would be knowing everything and would be acting accordingly. Right? He would be coaching, advising, or giving any training developmental programs. He would be giving everything based on the individual. So the focus is on every individual, and they would be taking inputs and understanding the individual equally. Whereas in transactional leadership, what happens is that there is no personal understanding, there is no personal attention, but it is everything would be mostly dependent on the leader. Whatever the leader says, they have to do. There is just the transaction, exchange of money, rewards, etc. for the work done by the employee. So that is the difference between transformational leadership and also transactional leadership. Got it right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So what happened is that in Indian context, right? So when we are talking about Indian context, it would be very much different from Western context, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Every context differs from the other context. So once what happened is that when a psychology subject has been first time used in India, wherein Department of Psychology has been established in various universities, what happened is that mostly Western culture is being used, as in Western methods were used to study Indian culture. So after before pre-independence, after post-independence, there was a confusion which methods to be used, what methods to be used. Either we have to inculcate Western methods in order to study Indian phenomena of any psychological phenomena in Indian context. So there was very much confusion. So even in 1980s as such, 1960s to 70s, 1980s, in a person named J.B. Sinha. So people started studying psychological phenomena, any different psychological phenomena using Eastern philosophies, right? So we have our own philosophies. In order to study our own context, we have to use our own philosophies. They started using Eastern philosophies. Even in the field of leadership, a person named J.B. Sinha. Okay, a person named J.B. Sinha, he came up with a leadership style in order to study leaders in Indian context. He named it as Nurturant Task Leadership, Nurturant, Nurturant Task Leadership. So he came up with this style of leadership in order to study leadership in Indian organizations and Indian context. He felt that Indian organizations are entirely different from Western culture and Western organizations, wherein the methods followed there or the ideas over there would be entirely different from Indian organizations. So he studied the leadership in Indian context. So he came up with the nurture and task leadership, wherein he said that there are both authoritarian leadership and authoritative leadership, right? We have discussed about authoritarian leadership the other day. Did you remember? Do you all remember?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is authoritarian leadership? How would be the leader be?
He will just give the instructions to what has to be followed.
Okay. Mostly the leader would be directive in authoritarian leadership, wherein only he would be giving suggestions, he would be giving decisions, what all should be done would be only decided by the leader. That is about authoritarian leadership. When we are talking about authoritative leadership, here the leader would be both task oriented and relationship oriented, wherein he would be thinking for the organization's benefit and also for the employees' benefit. So there are two kinds of leadership. When we are talking about Indian context, he said that authoritative leaders would be mostly good for Indian context or Indian organizations. So in Indian organizations, what happened according to JB Sinha, it is not. We are not talking about present style of Indian context. We are talking about 1980s, and also in respect to what JB Sinha has told about leadership in Indian context. He told that authoritative leadership would be good. So in this type of leadership, the leader is both product oriented and relationship oriented. He would be setting goals, everything. He would be deciding what tasks to be done. He would be giving guidance, directing, etc. After doing that also, he would be also empathizing with the employees would be having trust on the leader, confidence on the leader, and confidence within themselves. But in these type of leadership, what happens is that even though if the employees know what to do, what not to do, which step to be taken, they are over dependent on the leader, right? After knowing what to do and what not to do, also they will be waiting for the leader to give them instructions, give them directions. They need everything should be told by the leader. Until and unless the leader tells anything, even though if they know how to proceed with the task also, they won't be doing anything. Leader plays an important role. They would be only following the leader. And also they would be giving most important to interpersonal communication and interpersonal relationship, wherein the followers would be seeing for favorism, as in they wanted the leader to favor the followers in any of the manner. So right, so with this nurture and task leadership style, these are the main problems wherein the followers become overly dependent on the leader, and also they would be looking that the leader would be favoring the follower in any types. You understood, right? Nurture and task leadership.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is given by J.B. Sinha in 1980 in order to study leadership in Indian context. Done? You understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we'll be looking into ethics and leadership, right? So what is the role of ethics in leadership? What do you think would be the role of ethics in leadership? Any idea?
Will give more productivity, ma'am, from the team.
Okay. So when we are talking about ethics, what happens is that there are different directions we follow in order to achieve some particular task, right? So what directions are we following to achieve that task? Whether the direction we are following is ethical or unethical, we are using any other unethical means, right? So there would be unethical means and ethical means in order to achieve a goal. So, whenever a leader is giving a direction, whether it is ethical or unethical, we have to focus on that. Leadership is not value free, it should have some values. So, in order to discriminate all these value free on anything, the leadership, there is a one type of leadership called as socialized charismatic leadership, wherein in this what happens is that the leader would be having different types of values wherein both the follower and the leader should be following in order to achieve some particular task, as in they would be holding some values, they won't be going in an unethical practices, they won't be using unethical practices in order to achieve that task. So in order to have that socially charismatic leadership is the way they came up in order to have ethical means to achieve certain goals. Understood, right? Socialized charismatic leadership, in this type of leadership, the leader would be giving certain types of values, as in some sort of values, wherein both the leader and also the employee has to follow in order to achieve their goals. Then there is other type of leadership in these ethical the relationship between ethics and leadership, that is servant leadership. Servant leadership. So in these what happens is that the leader goes beyond the self interest of that leader and he would start helping the employees, and then he would be laying the foundation of values, he would be building self esteem, self confidence in the employees. So he would be looking that the employee or the follower would be following the path of ethical path. So he would be going out of the self interest and helping the employees. That is why it is called as servant leadership. Understood, right? Servant leadership and socialized charismatic leadership.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do we use these both types of leadership?
To follow the right path.
Yes, in order to follow the right path, in order to maintain ethics in leadership. Then comes certain types of what we say issues or challenges in leadership. So can you name any, you have heard different types of theories of leadership, right? Can you name any of the leadership styles, I mean leadership challenges faced by the leader, issues or challenges faced by the leader according to you? Any, it might be anything.
Trust, ma'am.
Yes.
Trust challenge means like it is a leader has to work the trust from the followers. If he lack, then the issue begins.
Yes, trust issues. Trust issues.
Maybe some conflicts between the followers, ma'am, team members.
Yes, conflicts. Anything more? So there are different challenges wherein a leader would be facing whenever he's in an organization, right? That can be including conflict resolution or conflict management, change management, crisis management, development of an employee, time management. So whenever we are talking about conflict management, right? Whenever there is a conflict arising in an organization, it is the responsibility of a leader to look over the conflict and to look for the solution, conflict resolution, right? There are many different types of conflict resolution, which type should be used in that particular situation. So everything the leader should be careful of, that would be challenging for a leader. Talking about time management, the one of the challenge leader faces is time management. So which tasks to be scheduled in what time, what should be the deadline of these tasks, which employees should be assigned to these tasks, all these would be the responsibility of the leader. This is also one of the challenges the leader faces. And also allocation of roles to the employees, that would also be a challenge, wherein he has to cross check the abilities, the strengths, and weaknesses of the employee, the personality. We have to look for different factors. Then we would be looking for role allocation. That would be also be time consuming. For that, they also have to manage the time, look for other resources to be given developmental opportunities. For example, change management, right? One of the major challenging situation which comes to the employee is leader is change management. As in, for example, every day new technology comes up, or every month new technology comes up, it would be difficult for the employee to cope up with this change management. So here the leader should be helpful to the employee, as in he should be providing means in which the employee can cope up with this change, how they can providing them the necessary resources, developmental programs as such, training programs as such, in order to know that change, in order to develop that change, right? So all these would be challenges faced by the leader. So he or she should be solving them effectively.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can cultural difference as a cause for disturbance that it affect leader?
Yes, cultural differences also affects the leader, because a group or the organization has diverse culture, people from diverse cultures, right? So that is the reason every organization or the leader should be looking for, as in there would be some ethical guidelines which has to be followed, as in no culture should be discriminated. There would be some guidelines to be followed. Every culture should be respected. Some type of activities should be carried out once in a month or such. Every culture should be knowing about the other culture, how in order to respect other cultures, what all activities a leader can do, he or she should be doing all that activities, because if the leader respects the other cultures, only the followers would also be following the same, right? The organization and leader also has to focus on the cultural aspects or diverse aspect of the groups in the organization. So, any doubts in leadership theories, in any of the leadership theories?
And can you just brief up all the theories? Just brief, quick brief.
All the theories, as in from so in order to brief up all the theories of leadership, first we would be starting with great man theory. There they would be stating that leaders are born but not made. Then we would be discussing about trait theories. There are certain types of traits which make the leaders different from the non-leaders. So first it was difficult for them to categorize them into any, I mean, coming to one or two types of traits, it was difficult. So then they came up and organized the traits along with the neo five factors, right? Ocean, you all know ocean, right? So when they started organizing along that five factor theory, then they were able to know which traits would be in leader and effective leader, what makes the leader effective, wherein extraversion was the most important trait for a leader compared to other traits. Both conscientiousness and also openness would also be the other factors which a leader should possess. Neuroticism would be having a negative relationship with the relationship, leadership. So that is all about trait theories. In these trait theories, then we would be moving to behavioral theories. There are different types of studies: Ohio State studies, University of Michigan studies, and Mountain Blake and Mountain managerial grid, which we have discussed today. When we are talking about Ohio studies, there are two behavioral dimensions which differs a leader, which is a considerate leader and initiation leader. Talking about initiation leader, the leader is mostly focused on task structure, task and everything. initiation leader is mostly focused on that. Then considerate leader is mostly focused on people. Then University of Michigan studies also gave two types, which is product oriented and task oriented or relationship oriented, wherein when we are talking of product oriented, they are task oriented, wherein they are only concerned with the production, what are the outcomes and everything. Then relationship oriented, interpersonal relations, how are the trust, the confidence between the members. Then the remaining theories which we all have discussed today, that is managerial theory, wherein Blake and Mountain came up that till then they have told that a leader can be having only relationship style or only task oriented style. But Blake and Mountain said that we can have both orientations, as in task orientation and relationship oriented, but the intensity would be different. So there would be 5 different types wherein different orientations, as in relationship oriented and task oriented would be there. Then contingency theories, when we are talking about contingency theories came up with the situation, as in as the situation changes, the leadership style has also to be changed. We can't use the same leadership style for different types of situations. If we use in such a manner, it won't be effective, the performance won't be effective, and the followers won't be following the leader. Then Fiedler's contingency theory, he gave different types of situations, 3 different types of situations: favorable, unfavorable, and moderate. In favorable and unfavorable situations, which type of leadership would be good? Fiedler's theory, which type of, in favorable and unfavorable situations, which type of leadership would be good? No idea. There are 2 types of leaders, right? Task-oriented leadership and relationship.
Task-oriented, ma'am.
Yes, task-oriented leaders would be good when the situation is favorable and as well as unfavorable. When it is moderate situation, wherein it is slightly favorable, slightly unfavorable, then
Relationship-oriented.
relationship-oriented leaders would be good. That is about Fiedler's contingency theory. He divided the situations based on leader-member relationship, task structure, and power position. Then comes path goal theory of leadership, wherein the path the employee or the follower has to be followed should be given by the leader itself. He has to specify which path to be followed, what goals to be set, what are the specific objectives to be set. Everything should be dependent on the leader itself. The leader has to give. So there are 4 different types of leadership: directive, supportive, participative, and achievement oriented. Then based on the situation, here the situation would be based on the subordinate characteristics and environmental factors. So based on that, the leader would be using any one of the style. Here Robert House states that one leader can have all the different styles of leadership. Based on the situation, the leader would be deciding which style to be used in order to increase the motivation of the employees. So that is all about path goal theory of leadership. Then we would be moving to situational theory of leadership, wherein the leadership style would be based on the readiness of the employee or the subordinate, wherein if he or she is able and willing, so that the readiness is divided into a continuum of 4 different types: low follower readiness, low to moderate follower readiness, moderate to high follower readiness, and high follower readiness. So based on this, we would be dividing it into 4 different types of leadership styles: telling, selling, participating, and delegating. In telling, what we does is that the emphasis is mostly on directing and low emphasis on relationship behavior. When the employee has just joined as a fresher, we would be using this style of leadership. If the employee has joined and it's been 6 to 1 year, then we would be using selling style, wherein it is also called as coaching, wherein the emphasis is both on task behavior and also relationship behavior. There would be guiding and also interpersonal relationship, but trust, confidence between the leader and also the employees. When we are talking about participating, it's been 2 to 3 years and there is no guidance required, so they won't be giving any guidance and direction as such, but there would be good interpersonal communication, trust and respect. So it's been now 6 to 7 years as such. The positions of the employees has been changed and there is no requirement for task behavior and relationship behavior, as in they have the right within them to take the decisions, and also they know what to do, when to do, and how. That is about different types of styles of leadership. Then we have discussed about charismatic leaders and transformational leaders. I hope leadership is clear. Any more doubts in leadership?
No, ma'am.
No doubts.
No, ma'am.
So our next topic is conflict. Our next topic is conflict. So what is conflict according to you? What is conflict according to you?
A difference in opinion, ma'am.
Differences in opinion, yes. Any more answers?
Friction that appears within the group.
Yes. So when we are talking about conflict, it is an active disagreement or differences in opinions, right? It might be between groups, it might be between individuals, it might be between organization, or it might be with the environment also. Right? So the conflict can be of many different types. It conflict with environment, conflict with the other person, conflict within ourselves. There would be many different types of conflict. But before going to types of conflict, let us discuss about different views on conflict. So there are 3 different types of views on conflict, which included traditional view, interactionist view, and
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes.
Are you displaying any
No,
PPT,
no,
ma'am?
no, I am not.
Okay.
We are just discussing that, not displaying any PPT. So now there are 3 different types of views that included traditional view, interactional view or interactionist view, and conflict resolution focused view. So when we are talking about traditional view, the view is that whenever there come up a term called conflict, then they used to think that conflict in bad terms only. As in, if anyone says conflict, that is bad term. We should not be using conflict. There shouldn't be any conflict. If you come up with any conflict also, you should be avoiding any situation wherein the conflict arises. It is viewed only in the negative terms in traditional view. When we are talking about interactionist view, they viewed conflict as being good when it is in limited levels. Right? In limited levels, if the conflict is in limited levels, then it is viewed as productive. For example, they have divided into task oriented and here also relationship oriented, interpersonal oriented, wherein if the conflict is regarding the task, firstly it is considered as for example, the group has been very creative, very much active, and then came a change and they are very unresponsive to change. They don't wanted to respond to the change. They have become very stable. In such terms, if there is any type of conflict, right? When we are talking about conflict, disagreement in opinions and all, if there is any such thing, then it influences our creativity levels. So if the conflict is in any of the limited levels, then it is useful. That is interactionist view. Then we would be going for resolution focused view. They won't be looking conflict in terms of good or bad, but they would be looking that whatever, if the conflict arises, they would be looking for the ways in which can it would be resolved. They would prepare the employees for the conflict. If the conflict arises, they will also be giving them many conflict resolution techniques. So that is about resolution focused view. So these are three different types of use of conflict. Then when we are talking about types of conflict, then it would be between individuals. The individual can have the conflict with the environment. So when we are talking the conflict with the environment, can you name any of the conflicts with the environment? Can anyone of you name the individual? Can, when we are saying that individual can also have the conflict with environment, so can you name any such conflicts? No idea. So if there is any wars, natural calamities as in earthquakes, floods, the individual will not be able to cope up with that. They would be having extreme tension and stress, right? So even such situations are considered as conflicting situations with the environment. If there are any natural calamities, wars, etc., so even these can be considered as individual having conflict or the group having conflict with the environment. And it can be between individual and individual. For example, if you have other employee in an organization and you and that employee would be in this as in you, for example, a project is given and the leader is asking you for your opinions, so you would be giving your own opinion and the other employee would be giving opinion which is very in an contradictory manner. Your opinion is very much opposite to the other person's opinion. So you are in a conflict wherein the leader has to choose between any one of you, right? So that is conflict between employee and employee or the individual and individual. So in next class, we would be discussing about the conflicts, process of conflicts and different types of conflicts in detail. So in this class, any doubts? Do you have any doubts? Yes. Any doubt?
Ma'am, can you please explain managerial grid, ma'am? Little detail. I missed starting part.
Okay. So this managerial grid theory was given by Blake and Mountain. It is one of the behavioral theories of leadership. So what he said that till now we have heard that a leader can be either relationship oriented or task oriented. But what Blake and Mountain told is that a leader can be both relationship oriented and task oriented, but the orientation, the level of orientations, the intensity of the orientations can differ. So he gave a grid wherein there can be 81 possibility of management styles, but we would be only focusing on 5 main type of styles, which include impoverished management, country club management, middle of the road management, authority compliance management, and team management. So when we are talking about impoverished management, the leader is neither oriented towards task oriented or leadership relationship oriented. As in he is just a namesake leader. He won't be the followers won't be have trust confidence on the leader, and also the leader won't be giving importance to tasks. He won't be evaluating the performance of the employee. He is just for a namesake leader. Then you all can see the grid here, right? As in on the x-axis, concern for task, and on y-axis, we have concern for relations. Then comes country club management. So when we are talking about country club management, the more orientation is towards the relationship and there is very less orientation towards task. I think they would be focusing 10% on task and only 90% on relationship. So even though if the employee won't be performing good or something, they won't be taking any actions. They won't be having giving any actions, or based on the abilities, even though if the employee doesn't have the ability, if the employee doesn't want to do any certain task, the leader would be leaving it. He would be only giving importance to relationship. He will be pleasing his employees by giving only the task the employees want. Then comes middle of the road management style, wherein in this the 50% would be on relationship, 50% would be on task orientation. But here what happens is that the leader won't be able to decide either he should be oriented towards the task or he should be oriented towards the relationship, because he can't either go entirely for the he can't entirely go out of the box and give challenging tasks to his employees. He have to look before giving, because he can't avoid his employees, right? He wanted to empathize with his employees. So this would be a confusing state, what to give, what not to give, how to give. There would be very much confusion in this state, because he's 50% oriented towards the leader, towards the relationship, 50% oriented towards the task. Then comes authority complaints management, wherein here the focus is only mostly 90% focus is on task behavior or a task lead on task, and 10% on relationship, wherein whenever giving task, the leader would be giving a very much challenging task. He or she won't be comparing it with the abilities of the employees, whether the employee would be able to do that or not. They won't be looking into anything. Whatever comes to the mind of the leader, the whatever is in favor of organization, in whichever task, the outcome or the performance, the production would be more. They would be going for that instead of considering employees' opinions as such. Then there would be team management, wherein we would be discussing about there is both equal importance to both there is concern for tasks and also for concern for relationship, wherein he would before planning on role allocations, he would be looking at the abilities, strengths and weakness of the employees, and also task, how the task can be structured to get the maximum productivity, and which employees to be assigned to which task in order to get maximum productivity. So this is the 5 types of leadership style, wherein the orientations can be on both, but the level of orientation or the intensity of the orientation differs in each style. This is what Blake and Mountain Managerial Grid says.
Thank you for repeating, ma'am. Clearly understood, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am left the class, I believe.